Welcome back to the Boar Sport Podcast, a show brought to you by the University of Warwick's award-winning student newspaper. I'm Luke James, the sport editor for The Boar, and on today's episode, I'm joined by friend of the show turned co-host, James Palmer. James is The Boar's film editor, and you can find him on Twitter at J_Palmer2. You can also find me on Twitter at LukeJames_32. For more content from us, make sure you're following at Boar Sport also. Today's episode of the Boar Sport Podcast is somewhat of a grand occasion. We are joined by the founder of a YouTube channel that has gained 28.5 million views over the last 30 days alone. Since its formation in 2012, the channel has spoken to the likes of Thierry Henry, Gary Neville, and Ian Wright. For today's episode of the podcast, we are delighted to be joined by Robbie Lyle of AFTV. There is so much that we want to discuss with you, Robbie. But first of all, how does it feel to have watched your team win a historic 14th FA Cup last weekend?
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was, as I'm sure everybody knows, it's been a very turbulent season for Arsenal. We've had 3 managers. We've had, obviously, something that's affected everybody has been the whole pandemic. But in the case of Arsenal, it hit home even more because it was Mikel Arteta's contracting the coronavirus that kind of halted football a few months ago, you know. So, and then we've just had such a poor season, finished, 8th in the league. That's our worst position ever in the Premier League. So to finish off the season by winning the FA Cup and to beat Chelsea, it was a sweet feeling. Always great to beat Chelsea.
Match of the Day pundits have often warned fans to be careful what they wish for when they attempt to instigate change at their clubs. It's been a number of years since Arsene Wenger left Arsenal. Was parting ways with the Frenchman worthwhile?
I think, listen, anytime you've got a manager that was as great as Arsene Wenger, there's always going to be a transition period. I mean, he was in charge for over 20 years. He ran everything at that club, so whoever came in directly after him was always going to have a really tough job. And I think most fans knew that it was not going to be smooth sailing after he left. That doesn't mean there wasn't time for him to go. I've always been a massive fan of Arsene Wenger, but I did think, especially, I think he should have went a couple of years before he did leave. It's easy to say, be careful what you wish for. But you do have to have transition. You do have to have change. So, and I think now, in Mikel Arteta, they've found a manager. He's young, he's hungry, he's just won his first trophy. He's steadied the ship at Arsenal. He's getting the best out of all the players there. So I think it's looking good under Mikel Arteta. But, management's a hard job. It's not just at Arsenal. Look at Manchester United. They've had several managers since Fergie left. These big managers like that are really hard acts to follow. I mean, if Klopp left Liverpool, who replaces him? It's going to always be tough. If Guardiola leaves City, even with the resources they have, it will be tough. So there was always going to be a quite difficult transition period. But it's just great to win a trophy. Tottenham down the road, their most successful period ever, they still ain't won anything. So.
A question I'd have is, because of how revolutionary Mikel Arteta has certainly been since he's kind of come in, and how he's really implementing his own style, whereas Unai Emery, when he came in, was a lot more practical as a manager. I was wondering, where do you think it really went wrong for Unai Emery? Because, of course, a lot of people, even on Arsenal Fan TV, I remember DT and Troop saying they give him 2 years, if not 3 minimum, but then suddenly turned on him. What do you think went wrong for Unai Emery? And do you think that Arsenal should have just gone straight to Mikel Arteta when appointing a manager directly after Arsene Wenger?
It's easy to say that in hindsight. I felt after I thought that when we got Emery in, I thought it was quite a good appointment, to be honest. It wasn't what I was expecting. Wasn't any of the names I sort of had on my list that I would have liked to have seen come in. But when we got him, I was quite satisfied with that. He had a good record at Sevilla, and he'd done well. And he started off quite well at Arsenal. But I think what it is with Unai Emery, I think he's a good manager, but I think he just didn't suit Arsenal. Sometimes you get some managers that their style of football, their everything they do is not suited to a particular club. And I think he just did not suit Arsenal at all. And it started to become apparent. And he finished off the season last year very poorly. We should have got into the top 3, 4. He blew that. Then we went to Baku. We lost that. They still backed him. They still gave him money in the summer. You know, we brought in Nicolas Pepe and that. And then we started off this season very, very poorly again. So it was kind of, I think we should have, you know, I think he did get quite a good chance, you know, and I think we should have really probably sacked him a couple of months before we did, or at least a month or so before we did do. And if we would have made a more decisive decision, we might have not finished as badly in the league as we did do. But I'm not gonna slate him as a bad manager. I just think he did not suit Arsenal Football Club.
One of the comments I picked up on was when you said that they gave him money for the summer. Do you think that potentially saying that they gave Unai Emery the money as if it was all his players is a bit misleading for the fact that Wilfried Zaha was the player that Unai Emery wanted and was known to have wanted, but Nicolas Pepe was the one who was given to him instead. Do you think that in general, maybe Raul Sanllehi's kind of recruitment method of which agents does he know, pulling out the contact book, is a little bit outdated and could lead to Arsenal being more inconsistent than kind of data-driven approaches that other teams are using for recruitment?
No, I kind of disagree. I think that the sort of system that Arsenal are using now is the same sort of system that all the top clubs around Europe use. I think the outdated system was the previous system where you'd have like Arsene Wenger, where basically whatever he wanted, we got. Right now, when you come in as a manager now at any of these top clubs in Europe, you'll notice you don't even have that title no more, manager. You're the head coach. So every one of the top clubs has like a recruitment team, and it's the job of the recruitment team alongside the coach, the head coach, to buy the players. So the decision is made amongst all of them. And on the Zaha thing, I know what Emery said. That was his preferred choice. That's who he wanted. But even he admitted that it was so difficult to get done that in the end, you know what I mean, that's why they opted for, you know, he was quite happy to bring Pepe in. It was his first choice, but he himself said it was difficult to get done because, you remember, Palace, they were holding out for ridiculous money. So your job as a head coach is to coach the guys that you got and to get the best out of them. And he wasn't. He was not getting the best out of those players he had. He got some decent signings in, you know, as I said, Pepe, Ceballos, people like that come in, and he weren't getting the best out of those players. And then you see Arteta, he comes in, and he has been getting the best out of those players. It's still, the team's still not good enough. The squad still needs quality added, and Arteta said that himself. But for him to get an FA Cup, you know, win the FA Cup with them, if you look at Arsenal's form in 2020 since the start of the year, it's been good. I mean, we played a lot of the, you know, we've beaten Manchester United, we've beaten Chelsea, we've beaten Man City, beaten Liverpool. You know, we haven't done those sort of things for a very long time. You know, beat Wolves away, you know. So he got the best out of the same players that Emery had, and that's your job as a head coach. You've got to get the best out of what you've got. You can't just sit there and start crying that, you know, I wanted to bring in this player and that player, because they might not be able to get that player.
Getting recruitment right this summer is going to be so important for clubs across the Premier League due to the financial ramifications of COVID-19. What does a successful summer in terms of recruitment look like for Arsenal? Is the main thing keeping Aubameyang, or are there certain positions that you need to strengthen in?
Well, 100%. Start off by keeping Aubameyang, because he's a world-class striker, as we saw in the final, the FA Cup and the semi-final, and all season. You know, Golden Boot winner last year, just missed out on it by 1 goal this season in a very average team, you have to say. So he's a world-class striker. We've got to keep hold of him. It would send a very bad message if we can't keep hold of him, and he'll be very, very expensive to replace. And as you said, money's limited this season because of the COVID-19. Remember, Arsenal players took a pay cut, so and then after that, we've got to fix our defensive frailties. That's the thing that's really let Arsenal down over the years. So I think a centre back, maybe a defensive midfielder, and I still think we need a midfielder that scores goals. And we've been missing that all last season. So if we can fix that problem as well, 3 to 4 quality players, I think, added to the team that we've got some very good young players. I think we can have a fairly good season next year.
For sure. You've built AFTV from the platform of being for the fans and by the fans. How has the COVID-19 pandemic impacted the way in which you support Arsenal? Is football nothing without fans in stadia?
Well, I think it's clear for everybody to see that, it's not the same without the fans. And this is one of the things that I hope that when we do get back to the day when fans are able to go back in, that the football clubs respect that. Not just Arsenal, but every football club, especially in the Premier League, starts to have a bit more respect for the fans and TV companies as well. I mean, it's TV companies that will say, right, we're going to put on a game at 12:30 kickoff away at Newcastle. I mean, where you got to trek all the way up there, or they might Monday night football, away at Sunderland or something like that, or Swansea. I mean, with no care for how fans are going to get home or whatever. I hope now they have a bit more respect for fans, because they can see that the product is not the same without the fans in the stadium. The players know it, the officials know it, TV knows it, right? So I want to see a lot more respect for the fans when it comes back. But it's been a challenge, because for us, one of the main things that we do on the channel is we speak to fans outside the stadium, wherever it is. Whether it be at the Emirates or around the country or around the world. And we've had to really change up our model as well. But we've still been able to talk to fans after the game. We've been doing our watch-alongs that have been really, really successful. So we've managed to navigate it quite well. But I'd love to be back inside. I mean, watching that game, the FA Cup final with no fans, I've been to so many FA Cup finals, and I really did miss being in there and sort of soaking it all up,
Robbie, you started AFTV in 2012. Since then, it has amassed upwards of 826.7 million views. In doing so, you've changed the landscape of how football fans consume sports media. Every club has a fan channel, many of which have proven incredibly popular with supporters and rivals alike.
Yeah. So a question I wanted to ask, kind of with this topic in mind, is the fact that because sports media is really evolving from where it was, even if we think back maybe 5 years ago, it used to be the case that in Match of the Day, the pundits wouldn't have any researchers going on. You could really tell from their analysis. But nowadays, it seems that kind of it's evolving in two different directions, one of which heavily inspired by Arsenal Fan TV, which is kind of like this fan cam culture and having similar shows on YouTube and using that especially. And the other way seems to be stuff like Tifo Football, where it's heavily kind of stats-based performance and tactical analysis. So do you think that sports media is going to continue to evolve in this way? And do you think, where do you think AFTV is going to be in that? And also as well, do you think that maybe kind of the traditional unbiased punditry on TV is dying, and hence why people like Ian Wright and Roy Keane's analysis is enjoyed so much, because they come across more emotional like fans do, and like how it's been on Arsenal Fan TV for years?
Yeah, I think 100%. I think we've helped to revolutionise football. I think before we came along, I mean, one of the whole reasons for starting AFTV is that I used to get very frustrated with watching, TV and listening to radio and stuff like that, and listening to some of the so-called experts. Sometimes you could tell they haven't even been to the game, or sometimes you could tell that they probably, I remember hearing some pundits say things like they'd be talking about a player, and then the host of the show would say, well, have you seen a lot of him this season? And they'd be like, well, I haven't managed to get down there a lot this year, but, and I sort of think, what? And I was like, but you never hear from the fans, you know what I mean? And, you know, and you get pundits that are ex-players that, you know, are you going to dig out your mate that you used to play with, or you're very friendly with that manager or whatever? Because, you know, so I just wanted a more honest sort of punditry, and that's why. And also, I just felt that, you know, why do we never hear from fans? Just ordinary fans, not hand-picked fans, just ordinary fans that have just been to the game and want to have their say. So that was the whole point in sort of starting AFTV in the first place. And I think that's with all the modern technology that's there, with the platforms like YouTube, etc. Fans do get to have their voices heard now, and you get to hear their opinions. And I agree with you, with guys like Ian Wright and Roy Keane. They are a bit, you know, I mean, I know Ian Wright personally, and he's a massive Arsenal fan. So he really feels it, and he understands how fans feel. So that is why they are so popular. I think there's still a place for, you know, traditional punditry as well. I'm not going to slate it completely, but I think, you know, for TV companies, a mixture is good. So, you know, so that we, you know, because as I said, we just never used to hear from the real hardcore fans who go up and down the country following their club. And I was always like, well, why not? These are the guys, they're invested in their football club. You know, players can leave, owners can leave, you know. I can't leave Arsenal. And I know what club you guys support, but I'm sure you won't leave those clubs either, you know what I mean, through thick or thin, you know. So, yeah, it's football going forward in the future. I think a lot of it has to do with technology as well. The more technology progresses, the more changes you can make. I mean, I think one of the big things has been live. Now that we can do so much live content, you know, once upon a time to do a live video, you need our outside broadcast van and this and big teams. And now you can just literally press a button on your phone and you're live to the world. So technology, and always watching technology, what it's doing, and adapting to that is very important.
For the record, I'm a Bristol City fan, and I would like to put this question to you now, Robbie. Are you aware of the last time that Arsenal and Bristol City played each other? Ooh. I would be surprised if the answer is no.
I don't remember the last time we played Bristol City.
Well, that's because it was the 79-80 season, I believe. So
I've got a friend as well. He's a big Bristol City fan, and he's, you know, I haven't spoken to him. I haven't spoken to him for a little while, but, you know, around about Christmas time, he was optimistic of them getting promotion.
So was I.
It completely fell apart. I know that.
Yeah.
You know, I've kind of, I don't want to call him right now. You know, I know he's in mourning.
Yeah, something that I remember thinking at the time when we went on our big run in the Carabao Cup a couple of seasons ago and we got to the semi-finals, I was really hoping we'd draw Arsenal because that was Wenger's last season. I thought we had a really good chance of beating you, having just beaten Manchester United.
Ooh.
And it would have been quite surreal to see you guys outside of Ashton Gate, of all places, doing your fan clubs.
No, I always say I'd love to go to, like, there's some clubs that we haven't been to, obviously, like Bristol City, that are big. They are. I look at Bristol City as a big club. You know what I mean? You know, but we haven't actually. So I wouldn't have minded a game like that myself. We did actually get to the final that year,
and then lost 3-0 to Man City.
Stood out by Man City in the final. Yeah. We did actually get to the final. We're good at cups. You know, you look at Arsenal even over recent years. Last year we got to the final of the Europa League. The year before that, we got to the final of the League Cup. The year before that, we won the FA Cup. So we're always sort of there or thereabouts with these big cups.
Yeah. So continuing back on the subject of, like, fans and having fans in general on your fan cams. Of course, like, since AFTV's really blown up, you have had big personalities on AFTV, some of the regulars. Like DT and Troops, for example, probably most out of the regulars. They've managed to kind of rocket up in their own media career as well. Have you ever thought in the past, maybe particularly more recently as Arsenal Fan TV's got bigger, that maybe some fans, perhaps having seen the careers that these people have got, have tried to maybe overreact in certain places for views to try and get some of that career themselves?
I think it's something that we're always very wary of and always very conscious of. You know what I mean? We
get accused on Twitter all the time. Yeah,
we get accused of everything on Twitter. There's a lot of hate. We don't follow Twitter, but you know, it is something that we're very wary of. You know, we have had some people who've come on in the past that I've felt, you know what, they're hamming it up a bit because they're trying to, you know what I mean? And if we spot anybody like that, we just don't put their video up. So, you know, so there would have been a few that that have come on that haven't got through the net that I know about, but other people wouldn't know about, or my team would know about, other people wouldn't know about. So we're very conscious of that. We just want fans to come on and have their own opinion. And then, you know, you get guys like your DTs, Troops, as others as well that have come on that people like them so much, they have been able to sort of forge their own sort of YouTube or social media career, and I'm cool with that. You know what I mean? I don't mind that at all. But as long as when they come on the channel, it's all about Arsenal, it's all about talking from the heart. That's what it's all about for me.
Yeah. And obviously as well, like Arsenal Fan TV itself, having grown, has become kind of more of a business. And of course, I imagine you've had to be more wary of that as it's grown up. And I suppose with particularly the AFTV regulars, do you find that maybe you have to do any sort of kind of ego management due to the fact that as a thriving social media business, like some of these characters, I mean, you maybe see a video of them. The one that sticks to mind for me and probably is one of my favorites of any of the fan cams has to be DT's when you lost away to Bayern Munich 5-1. I mean, you watch that video and he doesn't seem like maybe the most marketable person. But do you think do you have to end up having to do any sort of like ego management there?
No, when you say if you mean it that way, no. I mean, to me, when somebody's talking outside a ground and we've just been beaten 5-1 by Bayern Munich and they're absolutely livid, you know, that is how they feel. And if we start trying to change that, I think then we're going against what we set out to do, which was to give fans a chance to have their say and to have real emotions and real feelings on the channel. So no, you know, it's for me, it's more about those fans having their opinions than all about just marketing and stuff like that. And I want this channel to be real. I want the opinions to be real. A lot of times when you might have, say, an opinion like that from DT, that's how a lot of other fans are feeling. They're angry, you know. So so it's a reflection of how fans feel. But one thing I know about DT, he's not a guy who will ham it up. He doesn't pretend. He speaks from that guy. Absolutely loves Arsenal Football Club. So when he goes and sees his team get beaten in that manner, it really affects him. I mean, days after, guys like that are affected. I remember I was in Baku last year when we got beaten by Chelsea, and Troops was in tears. He's crying. That's how much it affected him. You know what I mean? He's like, I come all this way, and to see they just let me down that bad, and you know what I mean? He's, emotions. And the other day when we beat Man City in the semi-final of the FA Cup, he was crying again. I think you can see it on the live video. He was in tears. Was just overcome by emotions, after such a bad season, such a huge victory, and we got a chance of winning something, So it means a lot to these guys. It means a lot to them, And I think that's why one of the reasons AFTV is so successful is because, it's not fake, it's real. You know what I mean? And we get sometimes people try to accuse us. I'm sorry, you know what I mean? If we were being fake, I think people would see right through it. So yeah,
I don't mean to kind of call out DT in any way. He's probably my favorite of the regulars there, and I suppose for the fact that he managed to win that AFTV semi-professional league as well, I suppose it shows that maybe he knows one or two things that people probably don't give him credit for sometimes.
No,
But something
he knows how to get all the ringers there.
So, something that as well that I think I've seen kind of having watched AFTV over time with things like the Buyers Premier League show and All Guns Blazing as podcast as well. Do you think that the AFTV regulars and football fan cams in general, as they've kind of been watching more and more football like this and thinking about their opinions for the shows afterwards, do you think they've become kind of less biased anyway when analysing their own performances and players? And do you think there may be any kind of advantages or disadvantages to the fact that they're being more unbiased in their analysis?
I don't think they are that unbiased. I think that those guys they talk, they say it as it is. I remember one time we was over in Dubai and we met Lacazette over there. We saw him at this hotel. We were chatting to him for ages. And one of the things he said to us, he goes, you know what? He goes, I like your channel. He goes, because you guys are real. He goes, if I play shit, you say I play shit, right? And he goes, I actually prefer that. He goes, I prefer when people tell me I haven't, because he goes, normally I know I haven't played well. So he goes, when I see you guys say he's been crap, he goes, I accept that. And I just know that, you know, the next game I need to go and work harder. I need to, you know, not just because of what the fans said, but he does hear that. There are some other players who probably don't like to hear criticism or whatever, no matter what, you know. But I don't think that those two in particular, they don't hold back. I mean, Troops absolutely loves Aubameyang. Yeah, he's always like, he's got his little catchphrase that, you know, just one day he just said, which has become, even Aubameyang used it. You saw after the final, he was using it and stuff like that. But I can't tell you, he does not mess around. If Aubameyang hasn't played well either, he'll be like, you know what, Aubameyang's my guy, man, but he was rubbish today. He didn't track back. He didn't. So I think if you watch these guys, they're more honest, I feel, than any of the pundits on TV. You know, they will call it out. They'll be like, you know, I love one of the biggest supporters of Granit Xhaka, right, was DT. Always, even sometimes we used to give him stick and say, listen, man, what has this guy paid you or something? Why are you always... And when that incident happened, when Xhaka came off the pitch, even DT was like, no, I don't want to see him at the club no more. I mean, you know, this, what the hell? How can you do that? But yeah, so I think that these guys are very fair in their criticism. And if somebody's to get criticised, they will criticise. But also, what a lot of people don't focus on is that they also give lots of love to the players. You know what I mean? They give loads and loads of love to the players because they love these players. They want the players to succeed. They don't want to be slating them off and criticising them. They want to praise them. And that's what you saw after the FA Cup final. You know what I mean? Just pure praise for the players. And they were all saying how proud they were of how all the players performed.
I suppose as well, I suppose within the context of criticising your own team, that's really interesting to hear you say. I was wondering as well, what about with regards to criticising other teams instead? Because when watching your big fan debate with Arsenal and Chelsea fans before the FA Cup final, I found it quite funny when one of the Chelsea fans admitted that Arsenal was the better club. No, not the better club, the bigger club. I was wondering if you think that kind of over time there's been more admitting that perhaps the other clubs in some respects are better, because I know it's one of those classic like football Twitter debates which is just always really stupid when people say Aaron Wan-Bissaka is better than Trent Alexander-Arnold, because fans are kind of deluded in that sense. But do you think over time you've had kind of less of those wild comparisons and more admittance that, okay, yes, maybe one or two or maybe more than that players from the other teams might be better than us? You
get a lot of admittance on our channel. But there's always a caveat to it. So Liverpool, what was it? The classic one this year was one that I think it was Troops who said, he goes, yeah, you know, I have to admit, Liverpool were fantastic this season. You know, but they weren't invincible. You know, so there's always a caveat. You know, the other one I heard on the channel was, oh, Liverpool, you know, great season, brilliant. They deserve to win the Coronavirus Cup. I think so. You know, so give it credit, but not the maximum credit. I think Spurs never get credit on our channel. You know, they just never get it. You know, it'd be like, oh, we do have me. We like Harry Kane is a good striker. However, Aubameyang's much better. You know what I mean? It's them sort of. He's still that fan banter that we all love. You know. But you know, we do always, and you see it a lot on our channel. And that's what I like about when you've got real fans on. They will give credit where credit's due. Sometimes it's very begrudgingly. But that's how fans talk. That's how if we're down and if we're at a pub or if we're out and about with our mates, that's what we're like, isn't it? You know, we'll give credit, but there's always got to be, can't give full credit, you know, especially not to Chelsea.
Yeah, I suppose now that you've brought up the Invincibles, I think a good question to ask here is what would it take, do you think, for the majority of Arsenal fans to admit that a title-winning side was better than the Invincibles, apart from that other title-winning side going invincible themselves?
Well, you just said it. They've got to go invincible. Forget it, right? That is the one thing that we've got, right, that no other team has got, right, is that we've got a gold Premier League that was given to us because we went the whole season invincible, right? And that's why we were so happy this year when Watford beat Liverpool, because we're like, yo, they can't claim that now because the way they were going on, right, and with their points lead and that, we were getting worried. We're like, yeah, they're going to take this, right? And that leaves us with nothing. We haven't won a Champions League. We can't, you know, all right, we've won doubles and that, but so have they. And so, but when they didn't go invincible now, you've got that, haven't you? So you can say, you know, I know the guys from Red Men TV who do the Liverpool channel, always bantering with those guys. I'm like, yeah, you had a great season, man, but you got beat 4 times, bro. You're not invincible. So you're nowhere near as good as the Arsenal team.
I think it's been one of my favourite things, certainly with Man City and Liverpool being so dominant over the last 3 years, is Invincibility Watch. Each week, just checking to see have they lost. Are Arsenal fans going to be having the time of their lives this weekend?
Yeah, when Watford beat them, I sent a message to Troy Deeney because I know him. I said, "Yo, Deeney, well done, bro. I go, if there's one thing you've done this season, it's good, right? Well done. You beat them lot because they cannot go the whole. Because at one time they were looking like they do it. I have to admit, Liverpool are brilliant this season. You know." But they're not invincible.
Another thing that we wanted to discuss is how anti-racism demonstrations have become a prominent feature of sport. Footballers across the UK have taken the knee before matches in support of Black Lives Matter. Players in MLS have formed a Black Players Coalition to fight for racial equality, and Lewis Hamilton has been exceptionally vocal in pushing for greater action and awareness in Formula One. You were racially abused at a fixture between Spurs and Arsenal in April 2017. In a video titled "The Security at Spurs is a Disgrace," you said, "But if they don't do anything about security for away fans, there's no point in building that ground. It's pointless. Away fans have to run that gauntlet up Seven Sisters Road year after year. I've got West Ham mates, Chelsea mates that tell me the same thing. You go to Tottenham, you're taking your life in your hands. Have clubs, the Football Association, and fan leaders done enough to combat racism in English football?"
No, is my answer. I think they have done things. I've been going to football for a very long time, and I remember what it used to be like. And like in when I started going, like in the late 80s, early 90s in particular, it was terrible. You know, it was just commonplace. You know what I mean? You go to a ground, people would just call you names, make monkey signs, all kind of, that was commonplace, right? Now, if you do that now, you know, you're going to get banned. So I think all of those things are good measures. I still think there's more to be done. And I think what's been highlighted recently by the whole Black Lives Matter movement is that where I really would like to see a lot of the changes at the highest level. So at board level, you know, I want to see black people involved at that level. I want to see more black people on the FA board. I want to see more black people involved Premier League at the highest level. And when you start to see that, that's where you get real change. But I still think there's quite a way to go. I mean, we've still been seeing racial incidents. We saw, North London derby this year at the Emirates, or was it this year or last year, where a banana was thrown at Aubameyang.
Last year.
Yeah. Why are we still seeing that now? And there's been various racial incidents, and it still exists. And then we've even seen footballers, the goalkeeper at Leeds, who got done for, calling Charlton player the N-word. Now, for me, if a fan does that, he's banned for life, isn't it? He's gone. This guy got a ban of about 8 games, and then he's back playing again. To me, I think that's wrong. I'm not saying he should never be able to play football again, but I don't think he should be able to play for Leeds again. I think he should go away. He should, see what he's done wrong, and then, but I think he should have been immediately fired by Leeds. But they weren't. They were trying to support him. They were backing him. Now, to me, when I see things like that, and an 8-game ban and things like that, I'm like, that's not taking it seriously. Because you know what? If that was one of the teachers at Warwick University, he'd be gone the next day. You'd just see him walking out of the gates with his box in his hand with all his books, he'd be out. Right? If one of you guys said it at Warwick, you'd probably be out as well. So what's the difference between a football club? Why is it only an 8-game ban? And the reason is because of the money involved. And that's, for me, they're not taking it serious. Because that being as serious as that, he should have been banned. He should have been out of it. Shouldn't even have had to have waited for the FA to come through or the Premier League to come through with their ruling and say, right, we're going to ban him for 8 games. Leeds United itself, they should have said, sorry, we can't have you here, So I think until we take them very serious incidents need to be zero tolerance, and let's change the whole system of football that's been really highlighted recently because of the whole Black Lives Matter, and because these are real serious incidents that have to be done. I mean, we had something recently, even on the channel. We had a incident where there was a racial stereotype used, and it ended up with us having to remove somebody who's been on the channel, contributed on the channel for quite a long time. And it was a real shame because I don't think he's a racist. However, we just can't have that. You know what I mean? You've got to, and I think a lot of it is education. Because, and I do really understand it, because there's a lot of older fans and older people in society. There's certain words that they use that they think is harmless and it's a laugh and what's the problem, and you're not allowed to. You can't use those words no more. They're very offensive, and there really is a big case. I was chatting to the guys the other day at Kick It Out about how can we help to more educate people on certain words, because there's certain borderline things that maybe it's not the N word, but it's like, and fans will use it, and like when you pull them up about it, they're like, oh, come on, Robbie, it's nothing. I mean, the real common one at the moment, as regards with Arsenal fans, is we'll play Tottenham, and fans will use the Y words. And I'm saying to fans, some fans like that, I'm saying, you cannot use that word. And they're like, Robbie, but they call themselves that. And I'm saying, well, yeah, I know they call themselves that, but we shouldn't use that word. And I don't even think they should use that word either. I think that's a word of the past. I understand why they did adopt it, because they used to get slated and people used to call them that. It's a bit like the N word, where black people sort of try to turn it round and use it. I just don't think in 2020 we should be hearing that word at all. That's my personal opinion. And, and I've spoken to a lot of Jewish fans as well, who they feel offended by it. So there's still a lot of cleaning up to be done. It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy path, but it has to be done. you know, because we just want football as a game. We want all the banter. We want all of that. I love it. I absolutely love it. I've been going back and forth with Chelsea fans for the past week, and it has been brilliant. And they've been giving me stick. I've been giving them stick. Last year in Baku, they absolutely hammered me. Anytime we lose to any of those teams, trust me, I have to go to hiding. I get terrorized, right? But as long as it's done in the right way, I'm cool with it. But when, you know, your race and stuff like that starts creeping into it, nah. That's the worst of football.
Yeah. I was wondering, how much do you think that anti-racism initiatives in football and racism in football is kind of a problem, specifically within football itself, or this kind of prejudice is kind of endemic of the wider society that we live in? Because obviously, I suppose most recently on Twitter, the big thing has been Wiley's anti-Semitic tirade, and you have, you know, racism sadly quite rampant. Some might say since the Brexit vote kicked in, that's when a lot of racism and xenophobia kind of really grew back. So I was wondering how much you think it's an issue that, well, how far do you think football can deal with it? But how far do you think, you know, our wider society itself has to take onus?
It is a wider society problem. Let's be honest. It's a wider society problem, right? But they've always, some of these groups tried to hijack football, right? And that's what they used to do. Like back in the day when I used to go football, all these right-wing groups and that, they used to jump on football clubs and get people to support their cause. And to an extent, they're still trying to do it now. I mean, you saw the other day, that statue, that march where, to so-called protect our statues, that was arranged by, you know, the Football Alliance or whatever, you know, I mean, those are, you know, and there was a load of football fans, so-called football fans, should I say, from various parts of the country that came down to London to defend the well, they're supposed to be defending the statues. They're pissing up against some of them, you know what I mean? But so-called defend the statues, you know what I mean? So they've always tried to attach themselves to football. We see it in Europe as well. You know, there's certain clubs, like, you know, you club like Lazio, very right wing. I mean, these clubs where, you know, politics and political groups have attached themselves to that. It used to be like that over here. You know what I mean? Chelsea, West Ham, these sort of clubs, Millwall, the right wing groups used to have a big, you know, following in those clubs because they went to those clubs and they recruited people. We have to make sure that we stop that from happening and we keep that away from the game, you know. And it's a wider problem, but all football can do is deal with what happens on a match day and in and around the match day. And if they do that and they do that well, is setting an example to the wider society. But certainly there are some football fans, especially those of a certain age group who used to go years ago, who used to have it all their own way when it came to that sort of stuff, that they resent the football. Now they moan about everything. They moan about the foreign fans and the this and the that, right? Let them moan. Football's changed a lot. Football has become a global game, you know? Some of the things they moan about with regards to the money and things like that, I agree with. But certainly everybody should be welcome at a football game. And if that's an example that football can show to the rest of the world, that's great. But we're never going to fix the wider issues. There are wider issues in society, you know? And as I said to you earlier, and I mean, how many black people are there in this country in positions of power or in positions of influence? There's not enough. And, you know, there's been a glass ceiling that's existed for years. Media, I cannot tell you how many media events I've been invited to since I've been doing AFTV. I turn up there, I'm the only black guy there. I've quite a few of them. And I'm like, well, where's, you know, and this is the media, this is football. Look how many black people play football, but how many black managers are there? How many black board members are there? You know? Somebody please tell me what is the reason for that? You know what I mean? Every time I ask that question, and I've asked that question to some, you know, big people in the industry, they can never give me a good enough answer. So I have to say to myself, well, that's because there's a glass ceiling. That's because there's a lot of racism that still exists. At Arsenal Football Club, there is not one black board member. Not one. And if you go to Arsenal, you know what I mean, walk around, Finsbury Park, Islington, Hackney, these are areas where there's like, you know, huge black and Asian populations. Why are none of them involved? So there's a big problem, but I'm just dealing with football right now because we're talking about football. I'm involved in football, and I really would like to see football clean up its act. And I think football can set a great example to the wider society because everybody looks up to football. Everybody loves football. So that's why I think it's been great to see all these footballers take the knee. I know it's just a symbolic thing, but I think it's been great. You know what I mean? Black, white, no matter what your colour, they've all gone down in solidarity before kick-off, even the referees. And it's been, to me, I've really liked seeing that because it just shows me that those players and they're like, yeah, we're not about that. We just look on our black teammates as the same as us. And I think that's a great thing.
Yeah. Something before Luke continues on with his questions that I wanted to mention was having worked at Bristol City Stadium, Ashton Gate, and talked to the security guards there. I know Tommy Robinson specifically, being a Luton fan, means that there has to be more police at Luton away days when they're off to other stadiums because of the fact that he just breeds so much kind of trouble. And football, I think, is kind of one of those rife places where those fights can end up breaking out between fans.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've had people, you'll see a couple of them on YouTube as well, where even some Arsenal fans have stepped to me and aggressively wanting to threatening violence and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's so boring, man. I mean, just support your club, man. You know, that sort of thuggish thing has always been sort of attached to football, unfortunately, over the years. Football violence and hooliganism. But I think it's one of the best things about football that we're really starting to stamp that sort of rubbish out. You know what I mean? That's a thing of the past. You know, football should be about going to support your team passionately. We don't want to lose that passion. But why should racism be involved in it? Why should somebody's colour, you know, be involved? Why are people using the Y word, N word, using monkey chants and that in 2020? It's just not acceptable. Why is it that players are having to threaten to walk off the pitch in 2020 because, you know, they go to kick the ball and people are making monkey noises? Why is it that, you know, a player, he'll have a bad game, he goes on Twitter and everyone's racially abusing him? Then the next week he scores a goal and then they're singing his name. You know what I mean? No, it's time to really cut that out. And one of the things actually that I'm on AFTV, and I'm going to team up with some other channels as well, and the guys from Kick It Out, we've been talking about this because we want to do some sort of fan initiative on this because we just feel that, you know, the majority, you know, the thing is as well, right, is that why I really dislike those type of fans because they give a bad name to the vast majority. I go to every game and the vast majority of fans, 90% plus, are decent, would never do that, come for the game, and it's just that little small percentage that give football fans sometimes a bad name with their little stupid behaviour, you know? So if we can just isolate and minimise those people as much as possible, I think it'd be great. Because, you know, it's only for, you don't get a rugby, do you? You don't get a cricket. You know, I was at cricket. I went to a cricket game last year. England were playing India. He had like the Barmy Army, and I've forgotten the name of the Indian crew. They've got like an Indian alternative, and they were sort of having like a sort of, not, you know, like you'd have a dance off, but they were having the Barmy Army. They had their trumpets and all that, and they were singing. And then the Indian fans had their drums and that, and they were singing back at each other, and it was brilliant. You know, so why is it not in those sports? So we need to get it out of football.
Something you alluded to earlier is one of the things I wanted to ask you about. In AFTV's coverage of the most recent North London derby, Claude reacted to the substitution of South Korean international Heung-min Son by saying, "DVD's coming off." Met by criticism, AFTV issued a response video that has since been retracted, in which Claude insisted that the comment was a joke about Tottenham making DVDs after beating Arsenal. On July 15th, you issued a statement on Twitter. It said, "I would like to sincerely apologise for the derogatory remark heard on the AFTV live stream on Sunday and for the response video that we put out today where we failed to apologise and take onus for the comment. The response video was a mistake and I can only apologise that we did not take responsibility for the comment sooner." Why did it take 3 days to revise your decision?
It wasn't 3 days really, because the video the response was all done on the same day, but so it was like the video didn't emerge like on I forget what the day the video emerged. Was that the Tuesday or the video emerged on the Monday. So I think that video of what he said emerged on the Monday. But what happened on that day is like I was actually filming I was doing some branded content for a company, and I was really, really busy on that day. And when it all emerged, all of it sort of came out. I spoke to Claude about it, who insisted that he was talking about, there's been a running joke between Arsenal fans and Tottenham fans that, yeah, you're going to make a DVD because you beat us, sort of thing. And he was insisting that he said that. I said to him, well, listen, I think you need to do an apology on it, right? He did the apology. I then had to go back to filming. Then later on, when I saw it and I really sort of had a chance to really look into it properly, I wasn't convinced. And then that's when I issued the statement, and that, which it came out quite late because I was filming all day, and by the time I got home and got to grips with it, the response video was wrong. When I looked back on it, I was like, what we should have just done was removed him immediately, right? And we should have just apologized immediately. And we made a mistake. But what we did do is we dealt with it. We dealt with it. We removed him, and he's still removed. And we dealt with it. But I wasn't happy with myself in how we responded to it. One of the things that I sort of realized afterwards is that we need to have like in place, because AFTV still, even despite how huge the numbers are we get and stuff like that, we're still quite a small team. We've never really had something like that blow up on us before. So what we've since done is we've kind of put systems in place, and that if anything like that ever happened again, we'd be able to respond to it, more quickly and more appropriately. But I was very, as I said in my tweet that I put out, that we didn't respond to it quick enough, and it was something that happened. It's the first time anything like this has ever happened to us, and as I said, I don't think we had the systems in place to deal with it in the appropriate way, but I think we do now, because we've made, like, behind the scenes, we've made a couple of changes since, so that we can deal with something like that and respond to it quicker. But when you're doing live videos, this is one of the dangers, unfortunately, of live video, is that once it's out there, it's out there. But I think in the end, we did respond to it in the appropriate way. And as I said, it really hurt me because racism is something that I've been fighting against all my footballing life. So it's just unacceptable. Simple as that.
So the North London derby took place on Sunday the 12th, and then your tweets that came out afterwards were on the 15th, which was the Wednesday. The thing I just wanted to ask you into response...
So then the video must have emerged. When it started emerging and blowing up, it was on the Wednesday, because all of it happened on the same day. So it was like somebody had clipped, because it happened right at the end of the video, somebody had clipped it. So it all from it happening, from that video coming to our attention, to us dealing with it, it all happened on the same day. It wasn't like that video emerged on the Sunday. We didn't see it until that actual day.
Okay, so is one of the things you've put in place that you have somebody watching, whether it be live streams or videos, with a closer eye on things like that, which might need addressing? Is that something?
That's one of the things. One of the things is, like you said, because the whole premise of what we do is delivering stuff quick, because you've got to, with football, everybody's discussing it and stuff like that. You get the videos out pretty quickly, but that is, as you just said, that is one of the things that we've brought in to make sure that we can check things better. Because as I said, we hadn't even noticed that. It wasn't until somebody clicked this thing and started, they had it on their Twitter account and started showing it, and that's when it emerged. So yes, we have done that, and then also we've got in place a system now that even if I wasn't around, because part of the problem's been is that it always has to be me who has to respond to it. But now we've got a system in place where that could be responded to very quickly too. But certainly, yeah, I was very disappointed with the way we handled it, and that's why I said in my message that I put out, well, I said exactly what I said, that I was disappointed in the way we handled it. We shouldn't have done that video. The video was the right idea, but he didn't make a full apology. He still hasn't made a full apology, to be fair. That's why we can't have him back on AFTV. To me, it's quite clear what he said when I reviewed it back. It corresponded with the times. So we had no choice really than to just remove him. Sure. And this is where I think, because again, I really do think this is a case of education, because even after we've removed him, then we started getting criticised by a lot of other quarters saying to us, "Oh, Robbie, what has he really done? No, it's nothing." And I'm saying, no, hold on, it is something. I think it's a very, very serious thing. It's a racial stereotype, and I'm sorry, as far as I'm concerned, that is a serious offence. But the problem is, what I've really found with that whole situation that happened, I was really taken aback by the amount of people who said to me, he's done nothing. And this is where I really do think that education is important, where people are educated to find, so that they know why that saying, tarring every single, person of Asian descent as selling a DVD, is a racial slur. End of. So, but there's been a lot of, as I said, I've been taken aback because, I've got loads of, emails and, tweets and people saying, Robbie, he hasn't done anything wrong. It was only a little joke. And it kind of surprised me.
Yeah. Something I wondered about as well, because I saw a lot of people also mentioning Troops' comment in this game about Harry Kane. I can't remember what it was. Something about him not getting a yellow card because he's white, and people starting to ask why he wasn't kicked off the show as well. But in my mind, I think that kind of speaks to what you've just been saying of, I think people also have to realise as well that white people, especially in the UK, have not had to deal with the same history of oppression that Asian people have had to deal with that black people would have had to deal with, and so forth. So that's why I can like that. Yeah, exactly
that. And let me make it clear as well. Even with that one, both things that happened, I checked both of them with kick it out, right? And I said, right, because before I put my statement out, I want to make sure that I'm coming to the right decisions on both of these, right? I mean, I thought that immediately, like what you just said, but I wanted to be fair, right? And on it, they said the first one is a racial stereotype. Simple, right? And we took the action on that. And the action that I also wanted to take on that is I wanted Claude to go on a course. I was even trying to arrange that for him to go on a course that teaches you the reason why this is a racial stereotype. It kind of goes back to what you guys were saying earlier about the whole Wiley thing. I've seen a lot of people say, "Oh, come on!" What I said, nah, it's racial stereotype. You're saying that every Jewish person does this or is the same? No, that's a racial stereotype, right? And then when I checked with them about the one that Troops' comment, they said they said to me that was a throwaway comment, and it was just not the same. It explained it exactly how you just said it there, a throwaway comment about white privilege, and he has nothing to apologise for. So that's why we took the action of, and Troops himself actually decided to come on and say, you know what, I shouldn't have said it. It's a bit stupid to say that as referring to football, so I shouldn't really have said it. And that was the end of that matter. But as I said, I was very taken aback at the way people are trying to compare things. And, you know, it's sort of reminding me what you see in America at the moment with Trump, you know what I mean? And I'm like, it kind of saddens me that there's still such a divide with these sort of racial incidents that when these things emerge, you kind of see it and you think, it's not good where we are at the moment. We've still got a long way to go. But I do think, just going back to what you guys were saying, I just think there is a lot of things to do with race. Education is important. It's so, that's why young people get it so much. They're young person immediately will be like, come on, you cannot say that, end of, yeah? But then you'll get an older guy, 40 plus, who used to watch Phone Jacker or whatever it is, where that guy used to use that all the time and they all laughed about it and it was funny and it was a joke, who say, well, what's he done wrong? He hasn't done anything. It's cancel culture, you lot have gone mad, and you have to explain to them and say, no, listen, this is the reason why, you know? And there is a big amount of educating that needs to be done for certain parts of our society, because a lot of them just don't get it.
Kind of said that you wanted Claude to go on the course. Does that mean that he perhaps isn't willing to take part in that?
I wanted him to go on the course. He doesn't feel at the moment that he doesn't feel, he still feels that he did not say it in that context, is what he's saying. He doesn't feel he says it in that context. He feels that he was referring to the sort of the DVD joke where, you know, you're going to make a DVD because you've won the game. So that's why he's saying that. Only he will ever know deep down what he said. But I felt he should go on the course. He should go on that course. The course, I spoke to the guys that Kick It Out. The course deals with those sort of stereotypes, deals with racism, deals with why there's certain words that you used to be used that were fine are no longer fine. I think it would have been a great thing for him to have gone on. But yeah, he doesn't want to. You know, I think with that, I don't want to. You know, you'd have to speak to him on. I haven't really spoken to him about it since. But my personal opinion is he should have went on that course, and I hope he does in the future.
In the wake of kind of what's gone on over the last couple of weeks with AFTV, are you looking into ways of kind of driving home the message of anti-racism in your content going forwards?
100%. And as I said, we had planned. Well, as I said, you spoke about a video that I did earlier. That was a couple of years ago. I've done other videos where I've spoken about racism. I've done a documentary on racism. I've had loads of stick for talking up about racism. I think I can't think of many more people in football that have spoken up about it as much as me. And as I said, I get even to this day, literally, you could call it nearly every other day, I get racially abused on various platforms. Monkey this, that, Robbie, black this, right? It's something that's very, very close to my heart. And something that I really want to stamp out. And I was talking to Troy Townsend at Kick It Out, and there's also a guy called Jordan Jarrett, who works at Channel 4. And we were talking at the start of this year about doing this big initiative where it's all about educating people and it's all about saying that enough is enough. We don't really want it in football no more. And we were going to do like a week-long initiative on it. We were planning it and everything like that. And then our friend, the coronavirus, came along and put paid to all that, but we're still going to do it. We're still going to do it. We're still getting it all together, so that is something that you will see in the future. And it's nothing to do with what happened with that whole incident with Claude. This is something that has been thought about for a very long time and something that's important. And I think the fact that the whole Claude thing happened on our platform highlights to me how important it is. Because as I said, one of the things that I was really shocked about was I got a big backlash of people saying to me, Robbie, you've been too harsh. Robbie, nothing was done wrong. You're too PC. And I was kind of taken aback by that. I was like, well, wow, too PC. Actually, the people who criticized me in the first place were right. I didn't react quick enough. I should have, you know what I mean? How have I been too... They're like, no, nothing was done wrong here. And I think this is what's happened in football over the years. At football clubs, that's how... It's nothing. Don't worry about it. It's nothing. And we got to get rid of that. We've got to get rid of that in our game because this is a global game now. And people are watching it from all around the world. And as I said, race shouldn't come in. How many other sports do you watch and you hear people on the terraces making monkey noises or throwing a banana on the pitch? Or what other sport is that in? We've got to get it out of football.
So another question I had specifically kind of about the race issue is obviously when the whole George Floyd incident happened and he was murdered, Arsenal came out and made a statement about Black Lives Matter saying that they're fully in support of the cause. Did you think that this was perhaps a kind of an example of performative activism on their part for the fact that they distanced themselves from Mesut Ozil when he made comments about how the Chinese government effectively committing genocide on Uyghur Muslims was unacceptable, but then Arsenal kind of distanced themselves from Mesut Ozil instead of taking a stand with him, which they would have done if they were really about the equality that they stated they were in their Black Lives Matter post?
Yeah, that's a very very good point. Very good point. I mean, I haven't really thought about that before, but that's a very good point because they did completely distance themselves from Mesut Ozil on that. Listen, I was pleased that Arsenal took a stand on the Black Lives Matter. As I said, for me, it's a wider thing. It's not just about rhetoric for me. It's about action. So you've taken a stand. You've said Black Lives Matter. You said you're all about equality. So the main thing for me is at the football club itself, what are you doing to show people that? And I'm not saying you can't do it overnight, but I'd like to go back to Arsenal in a year's time and see someone of colour on the board or in a position of decision making. Because the last time I went to a board meeting, I didn't see that, right? So if you're serious about this, what are the, and that it doesn't just go for Arsenal, it goes for all football clubs. It goes for the FA, for the Premier League, because I've seen their setup and there's nobody who looks like me up there involved in it. So for me, that's where I really want to see the change. It's great to support these causes. It's great to say things. But to me, action is what is important. You know what I mean? Because I can never work it out why. I mean, I've spoken to ex-players and I'm like, why? I always say to a lot of black ex-players I speak to, well, why don't you go to management? And they're like, well, nah, Robbie, you're going to go and do all them badges, spend a lot of money, takes a lot of time. And then at the end of it, there's no job, no chance of a job. So you know what? When I finished football, what I decided to do is the little money that I made, I'm going to open a security company, or I'm going to go and buy some properties and go into that. Because I'm not going to waste my time doing something that I've got no chance of getting a job in. And that's been the attitude. So those are the sort of things that I really want to see change first and foremost in football. It's not about slogans and badges for me. It's about action. you know, because I know that with me at AFTV, I only look to employ people that are good. That if there's somebody who's a talented camera person, I don't care what color he is or what gender. I don't care, you know, I don't care. You know what I mean? I don't care. All I care about is that you're good at your job and that you're going to bring something to the table to improve us and bring your expertise and make us better. I don't look at color and gender and things like that and, you know, religion. And I think big companies should operate that they should operate in exactly the same way. There's no point in having a equal opportunities policy that you never ever follow. So for me, action, you know, because it's very easy to talk, as I said, very easy to talk slogans and words and stuff like that. It's all about action. And even if, you know, even if sometimes it was a bit clumsy, like with us, I still think we got to the right decision in the end. And so it's about, I want to see that as some of these football clubs, and as that, you know, I'm not judging them now, because you can't change things like this overnight. I'm not going to expect to see 3 black people up on the board, you know, the next week, and they fired this guy. No, I don't. No, that's the wrong way. And the people they bring in have to have the talent to do the job as well. They have to be good enough. But you've got to give people a chance, and you've got to give people an opportunity. And as long as you've given them an opportunity, and as long as you've given them a pathway, then it's up to, say, if it was me as the black person, to take that. And that's all we want to see. I don't think no black person doesn't want no special treatment. All they want is equality. That's it. I just want to, you know, if I was back to the age of you guys studying, I'd like to know that I could go and study at Warwick. I'm sure I can anyway, but I could, without, you know, my colour's not going to have an influence on me getting to go to that university. That's all. That's all.
Going forwards, both kind of football and sports media, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what measures are put in place, because it's very much a case of we've now had the words, and it's about time that kind of people in high offices take action. I wanted to kind of move on.
Sorry, just before you move on, even in sports media, you know, there's in sports media, you know, that's another big area of problem as well. You know, how many black commentators are there? How many, you know, there's not enough in sports media. So that's another area, and I'm hoping that that's one of the areas that we're changing as well, because we're in that now. So we're showing that, you know, when I go to interview an Arsenal fan, I don't care anything. All I care about, right, is that you support Arsenal. That's it. Nothing else matters to me. You're an Arsenal supporter, what you got to say?
Before the coronavirus threw a spanner in the works with regards to just football and life in general, what did a typical match day look like for you in terms of both kind of being at the match and producing the content that you do?
Well, so it's totally different to now, because obviously you've got the travelling to get to the games wherever they are. Before the games, we do a couple of pre-videos just to, you know, what the starting 11 is going to be. We go in and watch the game. There'd be no watch along like what we do now, but we go in and watch the game, and then after the game, videos, editing those videos afterwards, and then getting them up. And then, I mean, they're long days, man. I mean, they're very long days. I mean, on a typical match day, let's just say, for instance, well, I was about to say Champions League. We did that for ages. Europa League game, right? Kick-off 7:45. We're probably looking at finishing up about 1:32 in the morning when we've finished doing our videos and stuff like that. So it's a long old day. But listen, I love football, so it's great. But it is a long day. And when you've got far away games, you've got all the traveling to do. We always like to get to games about, you know, 2 to 3 hours before kickoff, so we can kind of soak up the atmosphere and speak to fans, you know, around the place, see how people are feeling. So yeah, long old day, man.
On a day that isn't a match day, and especially kind of during the transfer window at the moment, what does a day in the life of Robbie look like in terms of interacting with sponsors, and how much of a big part of that is it in terms of producing AFTV?
Well, again, that used to be mad, because I'm doing, even now during, the football season's finished. I woke up this morning. I've had to deal with a few inquiries from potential companies that wanted to do some stuff with us. But then I've also had to do like all the research for Transfer Daily, which that takes about hour, 2 hours. And then I went live at midday with that show. Then after that show, there was a couple of other things I had to do with some of my team with regards to posts on Instagram and that. And then I'm live with you guys, and then when I finish with you guys, I've got another thing call at 4:00. That's another, it's a very hectic day, but it used to be worse, but what I've done now is I've expanded the team. So I'm really trying to push it to, as much as certain areas to other people with the expertise to do, and just for me to concentrate as much as possible on just creating content. That's my main priority now. But it's a very hectic day. Every day is a very hectic day. But it's good. I enjoy it. But as I said, as we're growing now, we're bringing in different people to deal with different segments. Because as well, we've got so many platforms as well. You got YouTube, but then our Instagram's huge, our Twitter is huge, our Facebook, and all of them kind of need their own sort of person to manage and run those, and then to deal with inquiries. So we get so many emails in every single day. It's dealing with those, because we want to answer as many as possible and look at as many as possible as well. We get thousands upon thousands of comments on videos, and everything that we put out is dealing with those. So it's become big, but one of the things in particular I'm working at the moment throughout this summer is sort of our strategy for the next season going forward, because again, it's going to be different again, when a football fan's going to be allowed back. So, and when football fans are allowed back, what is it going to look like? And we're having to strategize around that. So it's ever changing at the moment. The whole coronavirus thing has really thrown football up in the air, and you've really got to adapt to the changes.
So I suppose now we want to ask mainly about kind of some miscellaneous questions to round things off, right? And I suppose the first one, to kind of justify my presence here as not being the sports editor, but being the film editor instead. Let's just ask a fun little question. What would you say is your favourite film?
I can see in the background on your wall, you got Scarface up there. I like gangster movies, right?
Yeah.
So I love Scarface, Goodfellas, all them type of movies there. I absolutely love, man. I'm a bit of a gangster movie guy. So Scarface is a good one. I go with it. I love that movie. Absolutely adore it.
Do you think that's maybe where the Don Robbie name comes from? Is that why you quite like it, especially because now you can feel like your own kind of mob boss yourself?
Yeah, I imagine myself in it. That scene where he's in the bath?
Yeah.
He goes, "I built this thing." But no, I haven't got that ego. But I just love. You know what? I love films that are real. Those sort of real type, gritty type films. I like so. But yeah, I like. As I said, I kind of like them gangster movies. Scarface, Goodfellas, those two in particular. Casino, brilliant.
Casino is really good. I think that's one. That one's quite underrated, in my opinion.
Brilliant films, brilliant acting. Love them.
Definitely. So I suppose as well, a question that we wanted to ask, I suppose alluded to it with Don Robbie, but obviously there are also the dub memes, which were very popular on Twitter for a while. I did see your reaction video to them as well. How did it feel, kind of? Like, I suppose this is as well as talking to the founder of AFTV, this is my first time talking to someone who became a meme. So are you able to document that experience really in any way for us?
Oh, it just emerged, right? It's the guys in my team started showing me, go, you seen this? You seen? I go, what are you on about? Right? And then I just saw, even this morning I saw one. You know, I mean, it just started, and I'm like, I can't even make a movement without it being captured and turned into a meme. You know, I'm thinking, like, sometimes I was like, hey, I better not do that because that will be a meme. But now I've just given up. I'm just like, listen, if they meme it, they meme it. You know what I mean? Like, trust me, even before the dub memes, I was getting meat, because the thing is about when you're doing football, anything you say, like they say, the court of law will be used against you. So if I turn around, like last week, I turned around and I said to every Chelsea fan before the final, I said, I think Arsenal win 2-1. And I go, Aubameyang's going to be the man for the final. That one worked out brilliantly, right? But I've had others where I've said, yeah, I reckon we'll smash this team or whatever. And if you don't, that's going to be used against you, you know what I mean? But it just goes with it. It's fun. I'm good with it. But the dub memes things, yeah, I really find them funny. But yeah, this and the funny thing about it is they dig up stuff. I'm like, where did they get that from? Yeah, they're good. They're good.
And kind of another question that I wanted to ask about the memes as well is, whenever I go on social media, whenever I go on Twitter, and I scroll through the replies to a tweet, invariably, especially if it's about football, I will see a picture of you talking about dubs or whatever it might be. And you, in many ways, are all pervasive at this point on social media. Do you think the memes are good, both kind of for you personally from a career perspective, and also in kind of bringing AFTV to a wider audience?
I think it's brought us to a wider audience, because I remember when they first started coming out, and I've never seen one guy's comment, and he said so, like, who the F is that anyway? So I was like, well, at least people are starting to find out, you know, other people who maybe not even to football find out who I am, you know what I mean? So listen, it's all good, and that's football at its best. It's fun. You know, we've been discussing for about...
You'll need to unlock your iPhone first.
My iPhone's trying to do a meme now, right? I think football at its worst, what we were discussing for about half an hour, but football at its best is things like memes, banter. I mean, me and Troops did we did a video the other day on Instagram using Chelsea's theme music. And honestly, man, when I say that wound Chelsea fans up, I saw one guy was at the petrol station. He goes, you lot. What? He goes, it was funny though, but you lot. So that's football at its best. You know what I mean? So football is a thing that, you know, we love the banter in it. We love the back and forth. It's what makes it, as fans, that's what we love about it.
Is that the One Step Beyond, the song that they play when they win?
No. We do it on One Step Beyond. Might have to do that one as well.
Yeah, you will have to do that one. I remember when Man City did that after beating them, was it 6-0 or 6-1?
Yeah.
And that really rattled them. That was right.
I'm sure Bayern Munich did it as well. Bayern Munich, they're proper wind-up, man. I tell you, I remember when they beat us 5-1, they had some guy on the mic. He was winding up Arsenal fans, I'm telling you. So them German teams, they're good at that. Their little tweets after and stuff like that. All in good spirit, you know?
One of the things I wanted to speak about as well, kind of before AFTV or even YouTube was a thing, of course, you've had jobs and careers in various different kind of industries, and of course one of those things was kind of being on the BBC radio and having kind of a career in reggae as well. Is part of the reason why you've found both success and enjoyment from AFTV, is it because kind of throughout your entire life you've always been passionate about making something for people to either listen to or watch or whatever it might be?
Yeah, maybe because the music career, I really enjoyed that. I loved that. You know what I mean? That used to be brilliant. And that was my two passions were music and football. So, yeah, maybe I've never really thought about it that way before, but yeah, maybe making and creating stuff is something I just enjoy doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Something I wanted to ask specifically, of course, your most viral reggae song now is the one about cocaine, which with the sniffing. I was wondering, having listened to
remember, yes, don't sniff.
No. Robbie was not inspiring people to sniff cocaine.
When it came out, some haters were trying to twist it around to say, "Oh, he's encouraging people to sniff coke." I'm like, listen, man, listen to the tune properly. Don't.
Yeah, I was wondering, having listened to a fair amount of reggae myself, including Yellow Man, I was wondering if it was inspired kind of by Nobody Move, Nobody Get Hurt, with the kind of the section of it where it's talking about one time. Yes.
Hey, you know your stuff, man.
Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you know what? My biggest ever reggae tune, I did a reggae tune that went to #1 in the British reggae charts, and it was called Proud to Be Black. And that was right back in 89, 90, I did that tune. And that tune was called Proud to Be Black. And funny enough, when the whole George Floyd thing blew up, I've had a lot of people saying, "Oh, Robbie, you should remake that tune, you should do it," you know what I mean? And it's funny, because when I first used to, first was doing AFTV, there'd be like a lot of youngsters watching it, right? A lot of people would tell me this story. Youngsters would be like watching it. And like their parents were coming on and go, "Yeah, hold on a minute, I know that guy. That's Crucial Robbie, man. He used to perform. Yeah, I knew he was an Arsenal fan, but yeah." So it's funny sometimes that you get, it's like almost like two different sets of people. People who remember me back in the music days, and then like obviously people, the vast majority of people now know me for AFTV. But yeah, those days were good days though. They were good days as well, but I think nothing on the scale of this. This is huge. But those days were, I remember my mum always used to say to me, "Yeah, you're a ghetto celebrity." You know? She goes, "Yeah, ghetto celebrity." Oh. But yeah, they were good days, man. Good times. You know what I mean? I ain't gonna complain about those days. And do you know what as well, right? Those days, I always think that they really set me in good stead for now. So, for instance, criticism. When you're doing music, and especially in those days in the British reggae music industry, you know what I mean? You learn about criticism. You know what I mean? You get a tune, you put a tune out. Some people will be like, "Yeah, there'll be other people, that tune's rubbish, man. Boy, idiot tune, rubbish that." So you start to learn how to take criticism. You start to learn that, you know what, not everybody's going to like what you do. Some people like that, other people don't. It's about, pleasing the majority of people. You can't please everybody. You start to learn how to take criticism. I think that set me in really good stead when it comes to AFTV, because people say to me, "How do you take it sometimes when people are tearing into you?" And I say, "Listen, it goes with the territory. You've got to be able to handle it. You've got to be able to, especially on social media now, everybody's got an opinion, haven't they? Everyone's got can have their say. You just can't take it to heart all the time, you know? You got to roll with the punches." So, and I think this being in that reggae industry, which sometimes it was tough. In those days, it was a tough industry. You know what I mean? It's not. There was a lot of rogue people in that. You know what I mean? Right? It's to put it nicely, right? So you had to be really tough to survive in it, and I did. So I really think that set me in good stead for dealing with things now. And also, one of the things that it really taught me is it taught me how to punch above your weight. And I think that's something I really learned to do from when I was doing, not to be scared of any challenge. I really now, my attitude really is now, I'm not scared of any challenge. I'm not scared to take on anyone, any big media company, I'm brave enough. I feel like I'm brave enough. I will go. We will challenge whoever. And I think that's all come from my time in music, no fear, so.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the beauties of social media, that you can really take on the establishment when it comes to media and that. You can really, because everybody can do it. Everybody can you know, anybody can start a YouTube channel. Anybody can start a TikTok, Instagram, anybody. And if you're good and you're talented and you're persistent and you're consistent, you can do well. And I think that's one of the brilliant things. I mean, as social media is often criticized, there are some downsides, but most of it is upsides, because, you know, I wouldn't be around if it wasn't for social media. Maybe some people will say that's a good thing. That's a bad thing.
I think, kind of with an eye on the time, this will probably be kind of the last proper question of the show. What I wanted to ask was, Robbie, kind of, you talk about punching above your weight, and kind of both kind of in reggae and with AFTV since. Within, I don't know, the next 5-10 years, what do you imagine AFTV looks like in 5 years' time, and how do kind of companies, channels like AFTV, or specifically AFTV in this case, compare to the likes of kind of the big kind of establishment media figures and organizations?
Next 5 years, it's all about improving, all about getting better, creating more content, more engaging content, involving more fans from the UK and around the world, and expanding with what we do. I really do feel that we can compete with a lot of, you know, if you look at some of our numbers, you know, I think, you know, we can compete with a lot of them, but it's about improving and getting better at everything we do, refining everything down. And I do think that you're going to see more and more football channels. I do think you're going to see more and more innovations. And as I said, a lot of it is to do with how social media changes, because, you know, you think it was about 15 years ago, there was no YouTube. So what else is going to come along in the future that can even take it that next step again? And it's what I want to make sure we're always in tune to changes, so that we're always quick to adapt to changes. I think that's very important. I think if you're aspiring in media, that's very important. I was chatting to somebody the other day who said to me that they want to get into media, and I was saying to them, you know what, I'll go, because my brother actually he works at BBC, and he's been at BBC for a long time. He's in charge of their cricket coverage now and stuff like that. He's quite big in BBC. But I was saying to her, there's that way, the traditional method of going into it. But then you can also just do it even before that. You can start your own channel and start talking about sport. You can, you know, you never used to be able to do these things before. And I go, and even if you want to go that traditional route, you've still got your channel, which almost will act as a portfolio of all the work that you've done. So, but you've got to adapt to the ever-changing. The thing is that, you know, I just try to keep my ears on the ground, just see all the changes that are happening around. And because I honestly think that, you know, in the next 5-10 years, there could be something else that's possibly overtaken YouTube, or there might be a different innovation within YouTube or Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is, that, again, you can push the boundaries with. So it's just staying alert to that. And I recommend that to any young person that's like getting into media. You know, there's lots of tools out there that you can be using now to really get yourself out there. You know, I mean, look how we're talking now. We can, you know, we're talking now on a Skype call. We couldn't have done this years ago. And then, you know what? And then circumstances can change where things can emerge. Look how Zoom has emerged into this big force because of the whole pandemic. And look how now people are talking about, well, actually, I don't need to go into the office no more. I can work from home. So there's little things that can happen that will just change the way we do things. And it's staying on top of that and staying tuned into that. And if you are, and you're an early adopter and you get in there with your idea, you can really do something great.
At the end of the show, I usually ask guests to kind of point our listeners in the direction of their social media accounts, although I suspect that would be somewhat of a futile exercise to end today's. Well, yeah, you can still do it.
Trying to get all the Bristol City fans.
Yeah. So, of course, you can shout out your Twitter account if you'd like. But what I wanted to do, Robbie, to end the show was simply to ask, have you got any final thoughts for our listeners?
Final thoughts for the listeners is, and I know a lot of you guys, are involved in media, and you're going to be the next generation of media. As I said, use the modern technology that's out there to not just be seeking to go down that traditional path, but create your own stuff in the meantime. Create your content and do it consistently, because you can, if you don't get into a BBC or if you don't get into an ITV or Sky or whatever, you can be creating your own content, and that could be your way into those companies, or you might be able to create your own company. You might be able to create your own thing with your own ideas where you drive it. And I'm telling you, there's nothing more satisfying than that. For me personally, the most satisfying thing is that this is our thing. And, and we're creating something here that's very unique and that people really, really enjoy. And if I can do it, I think anybody can do it. You just got to be determined and driven. But with the modern technology that exists, we can all do it. Yep, sorry, keep up the good work. Keep up the good work, guys. And thanks for having me on your podcast.
Awesome. No, we really, really appreciate your time, Robbie. So thank you so much.
I suppose we should say, because she said that I had to do this, we should shout out Tasha for being able to for doing the legwork and getting you on as well.
Tasha's my neighbor. Tasha's my neighbor, right? So she.
Yeah, I honestly didn't believe her at first when she said it.
Yeah, she's my neighbour and she's cool, and her mum and dad are cool people as well. So as soon as they told me about it, I said, "Yeah, man, let's do this." So big up Tasha.
Amazing. Robbie, once again, thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show. This has been the Boar Sport Podcast, the series brought to you by the University of Warwick's award-winning student newspaper. I'm Luke James, the sport editor for The Boar, and you're able to find me on Twitter at LukeJames_32. I've been joined by The Boar's film editor, James Palmer. You can follow James on Twitter at J_Palmer2. If you've enjoyed today's podcast, The Boar Sport is on every social media platform. Hop down into the description for more details. That is the end of the show. Once again, thank you so much to Robbie for coming on. Stay safe, stay well, and we'll see you next time.